and he was happy to pay the right price for it. And that won my first deal by just literally going into a shop and wanting to buy a piece of steak and having a conversation. So I think sales is something that everyone thinks is complicated, and actually people buy from people. You just need to identify the problem you're going to fix. So for me, my first ever sale in the MSP was quite a weird one. I went to a butcher's to buy a piece of steak, a very local butcher's, just a shop front of a butcher's. When I went into this butcher's, I was looking around, there was a number of staff doing different things, and the main thing that jumped out to me was they had these scales that were really complicated. They had to punch in customer names that would then give them the quantity and the costs, etc. And you just think to yourself, this is not a shop butcher's that's just got a till in front of them. So I asked the question, why is this scale so complicated and you have about 10 of them around? And he said, well, actually there's a whole production area behind this. The shop front is just something we've always done for 60 years. The main focus of the business is the butchering that we do and the sausage machine that we have and the baking machine that actually produces enough material to facilitate 26 vans that we have, and those 26 vans leave at 6 o'clock in the morning. So that's really interesting. So there must be some more detail to this. You must have an office, for instance. Well, we do, it's the terraced house next door. I see the scale is turned off over there, that must be causing some problems. And he said, yeah, we're waiting for IT to fix it as normal. I said, well, that's interesting. That's actually what I do as a living. We provide outsourced IT services, and we could look at it. And he said, actually, I'm the son of the owner. He calls his dad over and says, this guy does IT. And I said, I'm interested. Can I help you with anything? I see there's some materials there that aren't working for you. And he then came out with this massive angry face because actually I just really nailed something there. He had all sorts of stress. This IT company had been with him 10 years, amazing at the start, but they just believed they now were too small of a fish in this MSP that had grown so big because they'd done some M&As. And he was telling me all this story. And basically what you're then doing is just building up a relationship and building up a story. And it's not sales, it's just about talking. And before I knew it, I was getting a whole tour of the production area. I was into the terraced house. I spoke to the main contact there that was his right-hand lady and really hit it off with them. And then very quickly you find out what's going on. You addressed some situations that they've got and how you would be overcoming that. The fact that we was just up the street and we could respond very quickly meant that within 2 weeks I had my first sale, I had my first customer. So within 2 weeks of me trying to bang down doors, trying to have conversations, we won this first customer. And also it was a very, very strong customer for us because they had the right quantity of machines, but also they were already paying a very good price for these machines. They were dealing with quite a big outfit that had put the right pricing mechanism in. So there was no conversation about how I needed to be cheaper. It was just about how we went back 10 years and got the same service that he got, and he was happy to pay the right price for it. And that won my first deal by just literally going into a shop and wanting to buy a piece of steak and having a conversation. So sales doesn't have to be this complicated process. It just needs to be getting yourself out there. And I'm a firm believer of, as a business owner, just like in Scalable, there is only one major passionate person, and that's the owner. You need to be getting out there, you need to be talking to people, and you just need to have a little bit of skill about understanding a pain that you can then have an impact on, and you will win custom from that.